Back in E3 2018, during the Microsoft Xbox presentation, we had a worldwide premiere that teased an opening trailer of a game that a lot of people thought would be lost in the wind. From a few destroyed rocks, a lion-faced boat, and a crabby spaceship, everybody already knew what the game was focused on, even before the three shonen heroes hit the screen. Yes, the great Supernova Trio was back in another crossover game to hype the masses. The name? Battle Stadium, D-O-N. Wait, wrong game. Jump Force, an arena-based action fighting game that's main story focus was featured around the anime world, combining into the real world through an unknown calamity. Yo, 2K Status here, back again with another review-based video to make face for the other video that actually had mixed results. Nice flex, but okay. With the recent release of Jump Force, I felt it was my job, my duty, to let my fans know in a long but condensed video about how I feel about this game. Did it have a good launch? Did the characters included have substance behind their inclusion of the game? Does the game, it's pretty garbo. I mean, from a AAA developer like BANDAI Namco, it's absurdly awful. But before you click away from this video, I want to do my best to provide extensive context to why I believe that this game failed in almost all areas that it intended to hit for its audience. Ladies and... Who am I kidding? No females actually play video games or watch Shonen Jump. Anime nerds and FGC geeks, this is Jump Force. Now before I officially start my analysis, to give you guys the best context of where I come from, I will also comment about the game's predecessor, or at the very least what everyone's headcanon says it is, J-Stars Victory Versus, or J-Stars Victory Versus Plus if you live in America. Prelude, the debut of J-Stars. J-Stars released as a Japanese-only game on March 19th, 2014 for the PS3 and Vita. However, due to popular demand from the fans as well as overall international sales outside of Japan, Bandai Namco localized it to North America. Albeit it was over a year later since the original release, the game still did show a lot of flavor and personality that keeps people playing the game even till today.
I know you guys can't hear this shit, but this shit looks so epic. It's like, especially when they're talking. I gotta go Sage Mode. Fucking Ichigo! Fucking bitch. Medeka is in this game, and I want her to get in Jump Force as well. What y'all think? Do you think Medeka will be confirmed for Jump Force? Let me know in the chat. There we go. There's Ichigo. Let's get baby boy Sasuke.
Please keep this in mind, because I'll be mentioning J-Stars as well as other shonen games during this review. Nowadays, J-Stars Victory Versus isn't quite as receptive as it once was in the past, due to the reveal of a much more capable looking game. I won't say that the criticism isn't well deserved or out of pocket, however, what I will say is that a lot of people focus on the wrong qualities that make the project into J-Stars. I will also say that it is correct to assume that Jump Force will be the largest anime gaming step in anime gaming. Repetition, yes I know, because people always assume that with time comes improvement and with mistakes comes innovation and ideas. This is going to be a bit straightforward for me to say, but since now that I have played the final product, this game definitely does hit a lot of areas that J-Stars missed. But at the same time, Jump Force entirely misses the core functions of a crossover game that J-Stars Victory Versus almost perfectly represents. Part 1. What is the core of a Jump crossover? Now, Shonen Jump includes a lot of different intellectual properties. Even though creations like Naruto, Dragon Ball, and One Piece would originally pave the way for Japanese manga to become more relevant for international viewership and overall acceptance, it is an understatement to say that only the Supernova Trio matter to even the biggest anime fans. Jump Force's focus is indeed on the Supernovas. It shows within the story, the character selection, and hell, even the character creation sequence basically forces you to fight like a pirate, a ninja, or a Goku, which I will get more into later. Even though I do love One Piece, going far to say that it's my favorite anime and manga, it's severely disappointing to see that practically no other characters are shown love and care to have their own personal flair or input within the story. One of the points of a major crossover such as this is to involve everything that you can obtain into your own creation equally and with proper fleshing. Battle Stadium DON got away with not including other animes because at the time, only the big hits such as the Supernovas and a few exceptions of others made American premieres on local televisions and manga localizations, and not to mention those were the powerhouses in terms of sales even outside of Japan. It's also within the name. DON, Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto. Doi! Now look at J-Star's Victory Versus. It provides a much more expansive cast. It even includes characters that were more or less unknown when they were airing, such as Saiki Kusuo, Hell Teacher Nube, and Lucky Man. You might ask, why the hell does it matter? Or, why aren't you covering the characters on Jump Force yet, dipshit? Well, all of this build-up was to further stress the point of why I believe the character count and series inclusion inside the game is the worst it has been since the beginning of the gaming franchise. Here is a crudely made chart expressing the series appearance in total, the total amount of playable characters, and total amount of supporting non-playable characters. Within this chart includes the games Jump Super and Ultimate Stars for the Nintendo DS, J-Stars Victory Versus, and Jump Force. Now Jump Superstars has 27 series in total, 33 main playable characters, and 47 support characters. This was the first game that started the series off. Now this is Jump Ultimate Stars, with including 41 series in total, 56 main playable characters, and a whopping 126 support non-playable characters. For those that want to place Jump Super and Ultimate Stars, I suggest that you download a Nintendo DS emulator on your computer and try to find some way that you can get the ROM of those games on the internet. I'm not going to provide any links or whatever, but you can find it. J-Stars Victory Versus was the first time that this gaming franchise appeared on home consoles for the PS3 and PS Vita. It had 32 series in total, 39 main playable characters, and 14 support-only characters. At the end of the spectrum, Jump Force includes 16 series in total, 42 main playable characters, and no support-only characters. By the overall look of this chart, it seems as though Jump Ultimate has the most amount of characters and series inclusion to provide the best amount of fan service gamers can sink their teeth into. Ironically enough, this game is a bit of a hidden gem due to the decline in sales of the Nintendo DS, due to the competition of the PS Vita. Hence why J-Stars was ported to the Vita to appease the Japanese audience. Because from what I can tell, the PS Vita is pretty popular in Japan. Jump Force failed heavily in this aspect because there are only 16 different series included inside the game. Compared to the other previous games that came before, it's surprising as well as disappointing that Shonen Jump is poorly represented to this degree, especially considering that this game was, quote, created to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Weekly Jump magazine, end quote. Yes, the 50th anniversary of Jump. And it pays most notably to more famous and well-known manga. But if that's the case, where's Saiki Kusuo? Where is Eren Yeager? Even though Attack on Titan is part of weekly spin-off magazine Bisatsu Shonen, it's still published by the same company, so I'm pretty sure a few Doflamingo strings can be pulled. Oh, and what about Gintama? One of the best comedic mangas published in Jump, and it has a game published by Bandai Namco released literally last year for the PS4. As I stated before, J-Stars included characters that were barely relevant during the time of release, just as Lucky Man and Teacher Nube. Lucky Man's original run lasted from 93 to 97, and it was an effective cartoon to hold on to much younger audiences. Even though it's a more or less forgotten series, it still made an appearance about 14 years later down the road in a AAA game. Believe it or not, Nube has more of a reason to return. The series had an official sequel that ended just last year, so it would be fair to include him as well. It's also fair to mention how even the more well-known series, Yu-Gi-Oh! And especially My Hero Academy, don't even have two characters to represent their respective franchises. There is no mentions of any other franchises or characters related to those franchises outside of whom is already included in the game. Not in the story, not in the character dialogue interaction, not even within the available costumes for your created character. It's just non-existent and lacks substance. Look. I'm not sure if this was a license-based issue or not, but this amount of underrepresentation is ridiculous. It's like if I ran an African American history festival and only included Martin Luther King Jr., Harriet Tubman, and Frederick Douglass, but never mentioned or referenced Maya Angelou, Charles Drew, or Jean Michel. It's just incomplete and doesn't even come close to the concept of what the original idea stands for. Well, since this game can't stand, why don't we all just sit down and buckle up because we got some more reviewing to do. Part 2. Graphics, models, and art direction. One of the only major pros of this game are the graphics and attention to detail with its model renders and overall graphical essence. It's obvious that the game's main focus in terms of art direction was an ultra-realistic sense, and it matches well enough to get you engrossed into the game. Most of the stages handle color and lighting fairly well enough where I didn't really have to configure my brightness or gamma settings. The atmosphere of the stages holds a significant amount of weight to where even doing stage transitions seems really sleek and well flowing, and never does it feel out of tone. The only stage I do have a problem with is, ironically, the stage that Bandai Namco chose to advertise the most, which is the Sunset New York stage. No matter how much configuring I did, the stage just seemed everything to bleed out an unsettling red onto all the characters. This was especially a problem when I used any fire-based techniques, because the shine from the fire makes the red even more of a problem and it starts to hurt my eyes and it makes me squint. While a lot of character models do indeed have their issues, it isn't necessarily game-breaking. It usually has something to do with a weird-looking nose or a distorted body part, but if you just ignore those issues, which is pretty doable, end-game, you won't be able to notice them. And I find it strange that nobody wants to give credit to the destructible clothing on characters during the fight. It seems as though the clothing averages from normal, medium, and heavy amount of damage. I don't think all characters have this, because certain characters cannot be shown to be excessively bloody like others. As I had said before, the game is pretty much ultra realistic, but this does not speak for the graphical user interfaces, because quite frankly, they are indeed quite awful and uninspiring. Everything has a neon blue and black color scheme with a minimalistic style, which I have a hard time accepting. The previous game before utilized a much more colorful experience. The game itself tried to mimic that of a comic book, which is a lot of what people enjoyed. You can say that they went the minimalistic route to prevent the screens from becoming too cluttered, but J-Stars was able to accomplish that while having menus and selection streams streamlined than everybody can look at. Even the character selection screen has more movement than the character model animations in Jump Force, which I will also get into later. But considering all of this, I think overall, Jump Force's current look was a great touch by the developers, and I can see that most of the development went towards the game's graphics, as well as the game's mechanics and overall gameplay. Speaking of which, Part 3, In-Game Mechanics and Competitive Nature. Jump Force is definitely not a game focused only around the casual audience, but there are a lot of time-based button press techniques and a combo system that gives players a lot of reward for being offensive, as meter is gained rapidly. As it does give rewards for offensive play, there are hardly any defensive options that you can learn or master. There are high speed counters by pressing the light attack button or the guard movement of an opponent attack, dash cancels, support calls, and stamina breaks, but there are hardly any specific techs that you can use to ensure your safety at all times during a rushdown assault. Gameplay happens pretty quickly if you're watching it from the stands, but it only feels slightly slower once you get your grip onto the controller and play it for yourself. There's also one big concern with it involved in the competitive scene, as it does have individual stats for individual characters. All characters across the board have their own personal element effective statistic, as well as offensive and defensive power. The FGC hates these RPG aspects, as most competitive games go by those stats. Sure, there are those that have altering character health bars, most famously Akuma in the Street Fighter series, but it does not go under which element would be most effective towards them. Overall, the gameplay is acceptable. You can still have fun playing the game with friends and even find enjoyment with playing missions online. On to the next topic, Part 4, Sounds and Music. Jump Force falls flat in this category. Although the sound effects do provide a good heft and weight, the soundtrack is uninspiring and less proper substance commonly found in anime games. I only found myself liking only one of the tracks found in the story mode, which I only heard briefly. However, here are a few examples of various themes and comparisons between the games. In a short and sweet summary, dull, plain, and flavorless. Part 5. The story and key story elements. The story actually fits for the Shonen Jump game. It's about how your created character nearly dies at the hands of Frieza. Trunks revives you by turning you into a hero through an Umbrus cube, and it gives you supreme power, and you use that power to help the likes of Goku, Luffy, and Naruto by liberating the world of the evil beings possessed by more evil beings, Galena and Kane. You rescue other possessed anime characters by battling them, and they join your organization that you work for, Jump Force. The story is simple enough, but the game implements a make-believe faction system that's a purely choice-making placebo, since joining any faction changes practically nothing of the story, or even your character in general. The story even poorly represents these factions. Each faction has a specific role within the game, however, all of the missions are the same as the last. There's a disturbance here in this region, go fight some bad guys, or someone is possessed here, go fight some bad guys. Yes, I understand that this game is a fighting game, but each story mission is the same in terms of objective. There are no special requirements, no restrictions, no mid-game dialogue, nothing that separates or brings importance to the story missions, aside from the extra missions that you accomplish for the special moves, costumes, and items. Aside from the costumes and materials you can unlock for your created character, there isn't a point to completing these side missions. Those that want to play through the story, you're better off just skipping the dialogue. Part 6. Everything else. There is no changing controls on console, but you can change your binding keys on PC. Introductions between characters can get pretty funny and interesting. The keyframing of animations in literal everything except for the in-game battle is utterly ridiculous, for bad and for worse. There are too many damn versions of the game, and the collector's edition for that you pay $250 for does not include a fighter pass, so DLC is separate purchase. The graphical settings for the PC port do not help much, as you are forced to use motion blur if you want to enable post-processing, which is what makes the game's shadows and effects actually look next-gen. The game is a solid 6.5 to hack 7 out of 10 for me, and that's it. See ya. I thank you very much for making it to the end of this video. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe to my channel at youtube.com/secondstatus. I make a whole bunch of shit, and yeah, you won't be disappointed. Yeah, that's it. Have a good day.